Whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Ramuji, then Hari and Dheeraj.
Regarding all these things, what you are talking about.
1 minute. Not audible. Is it my speaker or? Okay.
No, even I'm not able to hear.
I don't know. My.
We can't hear you, Ramuji. Your mic volume must be very low, I guess.
Okay. You are hearing now?
Yeah, correct.
You are able to hear?
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
You able to hear?
Now we have to ask you whether you are able to hear us.
He can't hear us now.
You can.
Remove
Okay.
this thing. Ramuji, remove that earphones.
Okay, Hariji, go ahead while Ramuji tests that.
Guruji, this is slightly different from what we have been talking today. So I think I don't want to disturb that flow of thought. I will ask my question in the next class.
Okay, sounds good. Dheeraj Madan.
Namaste, Guruji. So actually, like there were. It's not a question, but more like a comment or an afterthought. You can correct me if I'm wrong. That even in science, when we say that, okay, like although we say it is knowledge, but even in science, this belief idea is there in the sense that like they'll talk about like a new fundamental concept. Let's say someone makes a discovery. Now everyone like even let's say for example like discovery of electron, right? Something we can't observe directly with pratyaksha. We'll have to make some anumana or some experimental setup. So even there we do not go and make the or do the experiment ourselves, right? We'll just accept what the textbook says or what the teacher says, or what let's say if it is more recent work, then maybe what the research paper would say. But of course there is a guarantee that if you are able to perform the experiment yourself, even if you repeat the conditions, then you can get the same sort of a result. So there is that repeatability. But then the same thing we can also say about Vedanta, that that if someone is a Brahmanist and someone focuses that time on Nididhyasana, then they'll be able to realize the that the Vedanta was also is also like a living knowledge for them. So is there a difference here, or you think that like in these two scenarios, like just belief versus knowledge? Of course science and Vedas have very different areas and realms, but in the idea of belief versus knowledge, isn't the same thing happening there also in science?
Right. So, science is trying to discover phenomena and concretizing it in terms of laws and equations and whatnot. Which is true. Even though I did not do a particular experiment, I take whatever I studied in school as the truth, as a fact, as a scientific fact. All that is good. So your question is about here also about Vedanta. Belief versus knowledge. We talk a lot about jnanam. चित्तस्य शुद्धये कर्म न तु वस्तुपलब्धये वस्तु सिद्धिर विचारेण न किंचित कर्म कोटिभिः. Shankaracharya says. So he says this vastu siddhi, he is using the word vastu siddhi means vastu means it's a word used to refer to Brahma or Atma. Vastu siddhi vicharena, he says. Only by inquiry you can get this vastu siddhi. This Brahmanishtatvam, you use the word. All right. So that means what? Vichara means knowledge. Inquiry means what do you inquire into something? To know. So jnanena. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. Krishna. So knowledge. Knowledge, what does it do? It removes the ignorance of that thing that you're studying and clarifies it completely. I get to know it. And so that is the essence of Advaita Vedanta, is knowing Atma. Right now, I know my idea of Atma is a mortal. I am a mortal means Atma is mortal. I am a victim of diseases means Atma is a victim of diseases. I am subject to sorrow means Atma is subject to sorrow. Because that is only I. There is no other I that I know. And Shastram has to teach me about this Atma, which is different from the body, but pervades the body still like that. That is a study we are doing. So that study should result in what? What is the purpose of study? If somebody asks, the purpose of the study is to know that Atma only, which is Avinashi, which is immortal, which is Amartyaha. Okay. And that is who I am really speaking. Good. So it should result in that phalam. And belief can't result in the phalam. If you ask the question in the today's context, can belief give me that phalam or can knowledge give me that phalam if somebody were to ask? This is what is relevant to us. Belief is there. You know why? Because you enter, you come to our dining hall and right on top it says Tattvamasi. Shasta Preeti, Tattvamasi, Ayyappa is there in our Shankara Seva Sadhanam puja room. Tattvamasi it says. Everybody knows Tattvamasi, correct? That's why it says, it's right there on top, is staring at you. It's a belief or knowledge for the people who know this. For the people who know this, we say, it is a strong belief. Tattvamasi is a Veda Vakyam. It is Veda Vak. It is something, it is critical for us. That also they know. But they have not studied the Shastra. So it's a strong belief. It stays with as a strong belief. Will that give us moksha if you say? What it will do is, it will give us the right conditions for me to keep in that context of Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi is my context now. You can't ever take me to Atattvamasi. You are not God. I will never go there. Why? Because the samskara is already set. That phalam I will get. That phalam is there. But moksha phalam is not possible without really knowing what it is. That vritti has to take place. Yeah, I got it. So knowledge. There also belief is there, knowledge is there. There also in Vedanta also. Until I know, I have to believe. I do believe. Because there's a lot of logic underlying it, and there is Shastram behind me, and so there is no reason not to believe all these statements. Anyway, I'll pause there, but maybe your question may or may not have been answered. Tell me.
Like actually, my question was pertaining to the science part that, is it the same situation in like science also that, belief versus knowledge that, we start with some assumptions and on some belief system of the system which has been established. And there is a guarantee that if we perform the sort of experiment ourselves, then we get knowledge. Otherwise, we can also, accept it on belief and proceed further. So here you are saying that in Vedanta, of course, if we want to get moksha, then we have to, get it as a living knowledge. So without that, we can't proceed. Uh, but even in
Science. Even if I did not do the experiment, I take it as true. Yeah, and I said we have to experiment means science as a subject must have experimented it and must have validated it. Repeatability must be validated, and then only it comes in the textbook. All those are as understood. So I benefit from the scientists who have given their lives for all these things. I am the beneficiary of all this. Maxwell and Bose and all these Indian scientists and Western scientists, everybody. I am the beneficiary. Laws of motion. I simply study laws of motion, walk away without doing any experiment. Ideally, I should do an experiment. That's a different thing. Why do they do? Experiment is like Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana. Because only then I know, yeah, my God, force is equal to mass times acceleration. Do some experiments and figure out for yourself. Push it and see what happens. Measure the force, measure the speed, etc. Where does it stop? Everything, do all that. Then what happens? That experiment only reinforces what I studied in class. Only reinforces. Okay, the reinforcement is important. Why I said only means experiment doesn't give me jnanam. Jnanam I already got in class. That's why I said only. Okay, I got the jnanam, but experiment reinforces that. Reinforces. It's like doing a shravanam again in a different way. And so I'm now clear, crystal clear about everything I studied in class that the science teacher taught me. So yeah, so now the question is, where does belief come here? Well, if I'm not clear, look at this. If I'm not clear about it, then it stays a belief. Stays a belief. Like sometimes we parrot equations, but it's only a belief because I didn't quite, either I did not understand properly, I forgot what I understood. Therefore, it remains a belief. Yeah, there also belief and jnanam is there very much. Belief and jnanam, science. Here also belief and jnanam is there. I keep believing many things are getting converted to knowledge, and until everything is like what I really need to know is not jnanam. No longer a matter to believe. Okay.
Yeah, and like when in the Shatka Sampatti, when we discuss in Sadhan Chatushtaya, so one of the Shatka Sampatti is Shraddha. So this belief, what we are talking about, is that same Shraddha aspect which will help us get the Jnanam ultimately. Like is it the same thing, or their Shraddha is different from the belief we want to discuss today, or you have been discussing
Good.
for 3 classes, like I
Good.
missed the earlier ones.
Good question. The question is the belief that we talked about today same as the Shraddha we talk about in Samadhi Shatka Sampatti? Okay, that is the question. Yes and no. Yes and no. I am going to be alive tomorrow. Strong. Is that Shraddha is there or not?
Yeah, there is some Shraddha, because otherwise, the routine which we are following today assumes that I'm going to be alive tomorrow. Otherwise, I would have followed my schedule very differently
I
if
will
I
put it
wasn't to.
differently. I will put it a little differently. I will say, suppose I ask us to compare my Shraddha in the Vedas and my Shraddha in myself. Two things if I have to compare. Which
Mm.
Shraddha is better, bigger?
Shraddha, like for a Vyavaharik life, maybe Shraddha in myself, for at least right now for me. I don't know, maybe for a progressed individual, it might be different.
Shraddha in myself is 100% in my opinion.
Mm.
Shraddha in my Vedas may be a little shaky. But Shraddha in myself, all of us, 100% is there. That's why confidently we are saying I'm going to be alive tomorrow. Otherwise, it's not possible to make that statement.
Mm.
I believe in myself.
Mm.
What more than I believe in anything else in this universe?
Mm.
Okay, Vedas I'm beginning to study and all that. Bhagavan is always there in my life, no doubt about that. So Shraddha in Bhagavan is there. But here, Shrat dadhati iti Shraddha. That which gives me the truth is called Shraddha. Look at the definition of Shraddha now. Now turning the whole table upside down. Okay, that which gives me the truth is Shraddha. What truth? The truth that is not available to be perceived in the world of science, which only Vedas can give me, Shabda Pramanam can give me. That is called Shraddha. That attitude that attitude is called Shraddha. The attitude that the final goods are only going to be delivered by the Vedas is called Shraddha. So now a slightly different definition of Shraddha. Therefore, I don't call it belief. I can't translate it as belief, because if I translate it as belief, then there are hundreds of beliefs we have. And everything comes into the same bucket. And so that's why I said earlier, yes and no. Yes, because it's also a belief. No, because its definition is a little different. Significantly different. Correct? How does that help?
Yes, yeah, now I think I get it. This whole idea. And slightly going slightly off track. So there is one more small comment I wanted to make, that like even in science, like you mentioned that that consciousness is infinite, which cannot, or even the Ishvara and consciousness both are infinite in the Samashti and Vyashti aspects as well. So science only deals with finite objects, but even within science, once they go into some of the new upcoming ideas in the last 50 years, for example, like quantum field theory, wherein they try to reconcile quantum mechanics and relativity, there also they grapple with so many paradoxes because of this infinities only. Like in the, like when they try to derive the theories, they have to grapple with that idea of infinity which comes up from nowhere, and then they have to give some reason. Okay, let's this is some constant, let's subtract it away and make it finite. So, and because of that, that theory itself is facing so much of trouble in standing on its footing, but we still believe it. So so even in like science, they have to grapple with these ideas. They just that they try to hide them or try to circumvent them. But it might be because that at that fundamental level, you can't break it away from consciousness. Maybe consciousness and matter, they are so linked together that if you just try to study matter without looking at consciousness, you might grapple with all those paradoxes. It might be the case. I don't know. Maybe they might be able to come up with something in the next few years. But right now, it's not a complete theory yet. Maybe because they fail to take into account the consciousness aspect.
Good. So, good point. What is the point? The point of all this discussion is, how can you say science only talks about finite things? Science is also grappling with the idea of infinite. They are also trying to study the infinite. Good. So that means I have to calibrate what I said, correct? That infinite does not belong to the realm of science. If I say science says, what do you mean infinite? When finite is there, infinite also comes along with finite, You can't, finite is in infinite only, and therefore infinite can't be ignored. Okay, go ahead, study it. Go ahead and study it. I don't have a problem with you studying it. I don't have a problem with even saying science is studying the infinite also. Good, study it. I'm saying that, like, finally, what they had said, without bringing in consciousness, the infinite cannot be understood. Until then, it's all a whole mushy stuff they're going to come up with. And what choice people have but to believe what is there? That's fine, nothing wrong. That's how science progresses. But I will claim it is still part of Aparavidya. If you have not come to Paravidya, I can confidently say it. Even though I'm not a scientist of that nature, I can still say it. I don't have to say, I struggled with the idea of infinite in my days in the US as when I was a scientist, and now finally I decided. I don't have to say all that. I am very clear now itself that this is Aparavidya. Correct, Dheeraj?
Yes, Guruji.
Yeah. So they may come up with the idea of infinite and all. No, they are already coming up. Already the theories are there. Let it come up. But you're objectifying it. You're excluding yourself from all these things, and you're saying consciousness is a separate department, and infinite studies is a separate department. That itself tells me it is aparavidya.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
Prasad, go ahead.
Namaste, Jaykumarji. And this is interesting, what Dheeraj has been talking about. Actually, just that gave me some point in my mind that the science, when it is dealing with basically finite in the sense of all this play enacted through the platform of time, space, and causation is still finite with respect to Vedanta. So in that platform, if we stop with that science, then when you said what is the value of life, I would add another two. Of course, one is anyway, it's ongoing issue that consciousness, what is consciousness? But why does anything exist at all is also a problem. It cannot be answered by science anyways. So when you say Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, if we take three, all the three questions cannot be answered. So why does anything exist at all? And what is consciousness? And what is the value or value of life? So I'm just linking those three. The other thing is when the problem of consciousness, there's one professor from UT, Austin. I think he's a retired professor by name Gallon Strassen or something like that, Gallon Strassen. He says that this is not a problem of consciousness like you say, because you say it is brain producing consciousness. So hence it is a problem of consciousness. But let me say from my point of view, he says what is that? The matter is perceived only by the presence of consciousness. The real issue is what happens to this matter as it disappears into photons, quarks, or strings, etc. So, and hence it is a problem of matter rather than consciousness. So he converts that problem of consciousness into problem of matter by saying this. So that is also true. Like, I mean, where is matter going into from his point of view? So that's additional thing. I actually, my main question is, you talked about last class, logical. I heard actually supralogical earlier. So after your class, I just tried to map between alogical and supralogical. For me, it seems more Vedanta is like supralogical, because by going definition, I just printed out from Google. I mean, main definition, it says that something that is without or disregards logic is illogical, the first point, definition point of view. Supralogical is something that is above or transcends the rational. So that's the definition. Now, comparison chart, it says, that's first point. Absent or disregarding of logical rules, illogical, transcends logical rules, often including them within the larger framework, is supralogical. Illogical is like logical analysis is irrelevant or inapplicable, but here logical analysis is limited, not sufficient for a complete understanding. So if we take these points into consideration, seems to be like it's more supralogical. That's all I feel.
So in that, in your study, what is the definition of illogical?
Illogical says something that is without or disregards logic. It is outside the bounds of rational application. And the supralogical definition is something that is above or transcends the rational. It is beyond the limits of ordinary rational understanding, but is not necessarily irrational.
Okay, so what is the difference between what you just said now, above transcends rationality, and outside what you said before for illogical, which is outside the bounds of? What is the difference between the two?
So basically, it is taking I think it is taking it's considering it as logical up to certain point, but because this is something which is some spiritual truth, mystical truth, and hence it cannot be explained up to that point, like, okay, what is Brahman? But it takes you to the point where it is logical to the certain point, and then beyond that, it's like a pointer, or because it's a mystical truth. So it is like pointing out, or you have to intuitively get it, sort of.
So, yeah, so still I'm not clear about that outside bounds of rationality versus transcends rationality, etc. Both seem identical to me. Transcend also is outside only in that sense. Okay. But if you say illogical, you use the word disregards logic. Okay. Now, disregards logic becomes illogical. Because if there is a logic that I am disregarding, that means I am illogical. So the
So that
disregarding of logic for me comes under the category of illogical. So I don't see a very big difference between illogical and supralogical in your definition.
So it becomes illogical in case of illogical, because it is without or disregards logic, like what you just said. Correct? So then illogical is illogical, but supralogical is not illogical. It says transcends logical rules, often including them within a larger framework.
That's okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
So we have to define it. We have to define it properly, whether we use the word illogical. See, I also Googled. So illogical, I want to check but my illogic was more in the sense of where logic does not apply. Not disregarding logic. Disregarding is a dangerous statement. And so I didn't get that kind of a definition. So I suppose disregarding is not the right statement there. I think it should say something else. That word disregard is not correct, Prasad. Illogical. You outside the bounds, you said. Outside the bounds. What was it you said?
Outside the bounds of rational application. It
That is
also said
perfect.
without. It's also said without logic. Something that is without logic. Even if you disregard the disregards statement, it is without logic. So
Okay.
that is
Without
correct.
logic
Without
also is acceptable to me. Without
Yeah.
logic is acceptable. And so, all right. Good information. Thank you. Something to keep in mind. Yeah.
But then,
Because
like supralogical might be a better term, like because he's saying that that includes logic. So, like we can also say that since Brahman also includes Maya and logic is the realm of Maya, so Brahman is something which is like the superset of that logic also, as in logic lies within Brahman rather than Brahman can be explained via logic. Can say.
yeah, so I think that word supra seems less dangerous of a word. Illogical seems a little, it can do damage because A and ill. A also sometimes opposites will have A, no?
Yeah.
As an opposite. So illogical can mean illogical also, but mistakenly mean illogical. And so supra, I think, yeah, supra is a better word that way. And then make sure we explain what that word is. Yeah, that's good feedback. But I'm disappointed with whatever Chat GPT and Google. Okay. Thank you, Prasadji.
Thank you.
Ramuji, how is your microphone and speaker and all? Is it working well now?
No, it wasn't the computer is a problem. I have logged in on the phone now.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I continue?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. This regarding the supralogical, illogical, and Swami Paramarthananda discussed this in many of his things, and it can understood and correctly logged to yes Vedanta one man has done, and that you can put that question and it gets directly to where is the location of the discussion. Yes Vedanta. Circulator, that chap has what you call AI, configured all the Swamiji's talks, most of them.
Okay.
And you get that one point.
Okay.
In the context of what we were discussing right now.
Okay.
And secondly, there is another point I wanted to make, not directly related to this. last 2-3 days, the Devdutt Patnaik
Hmm.
was speaking Veenam on Brahmins that
Hmm. Okay. Good work, Ramuj. Keep it up. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalashahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trailokyanataya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha.